The next faction rally launches tomorrow. It's the first faction rally of Season 3, and it's offering a bunch of brand new rewards, like, for the first time, exotic weapon catalysts. However, you can only now pledge to one faction per account per event, and therefore, picking the right faction is more important than ever. That's why in this video, we're going to go over, compare, and contrast the 3 different prize weapons available, so that you guys can make the most informed decision possible for the faction rally. And so, let's get started. What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today we are going to be comparing and contrasting the 3 brand new prize weapons for the June faction rally. A lot has changed with faction rallies, but prize weapons remain the same. The faction that overall got the most rep during a given faction rally event week will award everyone with the ability to buy their prize weapon. If you did pledge to that faction, you can buy it with only 1,000 glimmer. If you didn't, you can still buy that weapon with 50,000 glimmer. Quite the discount. Now, speaking of discount, if you guys need new gaming headphones, absolutely check out ASTRO. They make amazing products. The headphones I currently use are the A40s. In the description down below, there's a discount code. Save some money and help me out. Simple as that. Now let's move on. So let's get started here with the, I hate to say it, but losers of Season 1 and 2, Future War Cult. Although they had some great weapons on offer, they never claimed a victory in a faction rally event. Could they do it this time? Well, the prize weapon on offer this time is the Vision Legendary Energy Sidearm. Now, taking a look at the stats here, this is a 3-round burst sidearm, having the exact same rounds per minute and the impact as something like the Last Hope, probably the most known and most utilized 3-round burst sidearm. This is pretty much the best archetype you can hope for a sidearm. It's heavily used in PvP. Now, in terms of range, stability, magazine size, all of that stuff, well, let's compare it with the Last Hope. As you can see, the Vision has slightly less range, the same stability, same magazine, slightly better reload speed, and the same handling. Now, as for the hidden stats, like aim assist and recoil direction, the Last Hope actually beats the Vision in both of those things, so it's not off to a great start. Can it make up for it with its perks? Well, firstly, we have Omolon Adaptive Frame, just indicative of its damage archetype. Then we have 3 different sights you can utilize. Moving on from there, we have Appended Mag, essentially extended mag, and then we have Accurized Rounds, which is going to increase the range, definitely a very useful stat for this archetype of sidearms. And lastly, we have Kill Clip. Reloading after a kill grants a damage bonus. Hold on a second. The stats, although they are worse, they're not substantially worse than the Last Hope. They're very, very close, in fact. So this is basically a Last Hope, a heavily used PvP weapon with Kill Clip. That is amazing. There is a ton of weapons that see play just because of that perk. Kill Clip is an absolutely phenomenally powerful perk, both in PvP and even in PvE. The Vision is in the right archetype, it has the right stats, and it has the right perks. This is definitely a weapon you want your hands on. And frankly, I thought I was set with Dead Orbit to get that catalyst, but looking at these prize weapons, the Vision is seriously gunning for Future War Cult to get some more following. Now, will these prize weapons be added into the vendor loot pools at later faction rally events? Like, will you be able to get the Vision from just normally leveling up Future War Cult in the next faction rally event? We don't really know. Bungie tried to do that last time for Season 2, so maybe they'll do it again, but it's definitely a great weapon. We'll see if Future War Cult can pull off the victory. Now, moving on from there, we have New Monarchy. These guys were on top for Seasons 1 and 2. Their prize weapon is the Broadsword Launcher Legendary Rocket Launcher. Now, taking a look at these stats here, this is a pretty darn average rocket launcher. The blast radius and velocity are in the middle of the rocket launcher category. Stuff like the Sins of the Past and the Braytech rocket launcher available in the Nightfall and so on, those have a nearly maxed out blast radius, and therefore they see a ton of play. In PvE, they're utilized for ad clearing because one shot can take out a ton of ads, and then in PvP, they're also pretty highly utilized because you want to make your one shot have as high of a chance as possible of actually hitting your target with that massive blast radius. On the opposite end of the spectrum, stuff like the Curtain Call has a much lower blast radius of around 50, and that's utilized in combination with cluster bombs because it contains all of the damage to one target. So when you're shooting that at a boss, all of the explosions and clusters and so on are limited to just around that boss and actually damaging him. Being in the middle here is actually not what you want. You don't want to split the difference, you want to be specialized for one thing or the other. Now, as for the rest of the stats, absolutely nothing stands out. It's completely in line with other rocket launchers of its archetype. But moving on from there, the big thing about rocket launchers is their perks. For the Broadsword launcher, we have firstly Adaptive Frame as an intrinsic perk. We then have 3 different launch types, and then we have High Velocity Rounds to increase the velocity of your rounds. We then have Implosion Rounds, which is going to increase the velocity and so on, and contain that radius of the explosion. That's not bad actually. But then we have Auto Loading Holster. Now, auto-loading holster is going to allow you to stow away your rocket launcher and it'll reload in the background. So when you take it out, it's already reloaded. That is actually a pretty good perk, especially with rocket launchers. But that as the only main perk is just not good enough. The Sins of the Past raid rocket launcher has auto-loading holster, but also has cluster bombs as a perk. And for a rocket launcher, cluster bombs is so far ahead of all the other perks, it's literally the only thing you're really looking for. Like, unless this weapon had 2 or 3 rounds in a magazine, if it doesn't have cluster bombs, it's not worth looking at. And I hate to say that, but it's true, and it's a sad fact of the current weapon system, which will hopefully change in September. Alright, now moving on from there, last but certainly not least, we have the Dead Orbit prize weapon with the Basilisk Legendary Shotgun. This is actually a very unique weapon. Taking a look at these stats here, it belongs to the highest rate of fire and lowest damaging archetype for shotguns. This is actually a pretty heavily used archetype. Now, in terms of the other stats, range, stability, magazine, reload speed, and handling, let's compare it with another weapon in the same archetype, with the Perfect Paradox. This is actually a prophecy weapon from the Curse of Osiris. Prior to Warmind, I would argue that the Perfect Paradox was the best PvE shotgun in the entire game. And the stats are nearly identical. The Perfect Paradox does have 1 extra point of range and 1 extra point of handling, and even in the hidden stats, aim assistance is exactly the same. Recoil direction is actually just a tiny bit higher for the Basilisk, but again, these are very, very similar weapons, almost identical weapons in terms of stats. And that's actually a very good thing. Now let's take a look here at the perks of the Basilisk. First and foremost, we have Rapid Fire Frame, deeper ammo reserves, slightly faster reload when the magazine is empty. Now let's stop right there for a second. That makes this weapon very unique because not many shotguns have rapid fire frame. In fact, something like the Hawthorne's Field Forge shotgun, as you can see, it does the same damage, has the same impact of 65, but the Basilisk and stuff like the Perfect Paradox and the Escalation shotgun, they all have rapid fire frame, so they actually shoot faster. Now, what's very interesting, however, is that the rapid fire frame for the Basilisk doesn't mention full auto, but for the Perfect Paradox and for the Escalation shotgun, it does. So the Basilisk may not have full auto, or this may be a glitch. It's actually very, very weird it's displayed as such. But we need to move on with the other perks because we have 3 different ballistic choices with smoothbore, rifled barrel, and fluted barrel. Then we have accurized rounds, which is going to increase the range, undoubtedly a fantastic perk with shotguns. We then have extended mag, which is great on this type of shotgun especially. And lastly, we have auto loading holster, which is not bad with any power weapons. Shotguns are included as well. So, is this a worthwhile prize weapon? Well, let it be known right off the bat that this weapon is absolutely worse than the Perfect Paradox and the brand new Escalation shotgun. Those shotguns are full auto, and this may or may not be full auto. They are in the same damage archetype, and they have much better perks. The Perfect Paradox has Rampage, an unbelievable PvE perk, and even comes up in PvP. The Escalation shotgun is just miles ahead of any other shotgun in the game for PvE especially. So the Basilisk having autoloading holster, it just doesn't compete. So normally you'd expect me to say, okay, well, you have other weapons out there, Perfect Paradox is better, that's it, don't get the Basilisk. But the Perfect Paradox is rather difficult to get. You have to do a bunch of stuff, you have to do a bunch of prophecy weapons, then it has its own unique world quest in order to get it. It's kind of a nightmare, and a lot of players don't have it because of that. And of course you need Curse of Osiris to get it in the first place. The Escalation shotgun is kind of the same thing. Honestly, somewhat of a nightmare to get. You have to beat certain Escalation bosses over and over and over again until you luck out and get that shotgun, and therefore not a lot of people have it. So what you have with a Basilisk is a potentially better Hawthorne's Feel-Forged shotgun. I mean, it does the same damage but shoots faster and has more ammo in reserve because of rapid fire frame, and may be fully automatic again, possibly not, but even without the fully automatic, it does seem like kind of a strict upgrade over the Hawthorne's Feel-Forged. So this may be the best, relatively easy to get shotgun in the game right now for PvE, replacing the Hawthornes. And that is definitely something worth considering. And so, there you have it, all 3 of the prize weapons for the June faction rally. Which one is best? Well, on just a weapon-to-weapon basis, I think it's pretty clearly the Vision. A Last Hope with Kill Clip is absurd. If Future War Cult does win, expect to see that weapon take over the Crucible. Like, it's going to be used heavily. But, of course, there's so many other factors involved, especially Catalyst. And because Dead Orbit does have the Graviton Catalyst on offer, it's good to know that the Basilisk is at least a pretty decent prize weapon. And I think it's going to make its way into a lot of people's loadouts after this faction rally if Dead Orbit does win. Because again, the weapons that are better than the Basilisk are very hard to get. But there you have it, and that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.